what you see around the world is whenever these right-wing nationalist movements come to power and they oppress those immigrant minorities, none of the problems they claim they're going to solve by doing that are actually solved. I want to respond to an Iranian guy who has gone a little bit viral on Twitter for being cringe. We're going to watch his video and I'm going to respond to it. Here it is.
I'm at the gym minding my own business. This older white guy comes up to me, pointing to my shirt, and he said, "Let me talk to you real quick." So I walk over there. I'm like, "What's up, man?" He said, "You shouldn't be wearing that shirt right now. You're going to offend a lot of people." I was like, "Who? Who am I going to offend?" He said, "Immigrants." I started laughing. I'm like, "I'm an immigrant. I support the president." He's like, "No, you're not." I was like, "Yeah, born and raised in Iran, man." He gets all confused and he's like, "Well, how about the soldiers, military's being deployed to target protesters?" I was like, I like law and order too. I like stores that are not looted. I like taxi cabs that are not burned. I don't know about you. I support him on that.
So this is the interesting thing. Just because you support law and order, which is people not burning cars down, which is a terrible thing to do, people looting stores, not defensible, doesn't mean that you want the U.S. military or the National Guard to be deployed against Americans. And the idea that Trump's policies are making Americans safer is genuinely absurd. Were there riots in LA when Biden was president? That's interesting. I don't remember that. Were there riots in the United States when Trump was president last time? Yes, actually. There was a lot of riots. You might remember that. Maybe there's something about being an extremely divisive, controversial president, which is constantly attacking certain groups in our society with the most intense fascistic rhetoric. Maybe there's something about that which destabilizes your country. Maybe at the first sight of protesters that are rowdy, taking over the National Guard of a state without even talking to the governor there to ask if he wanted you to do that, without even getting the consent of the mayor, maybe just seizing the National Guard and sending them on protesters doesn't actually reduce tensions. Maybe it inflames tensions. Not actually, maybe, definitely, because this is what we're seeing happening. This is not normal. This is the kind of stuff that wouldn't happen under Barack Obama. It didn't happen under Biden. It only happens under Trump because it's caused by Trump's approach to these situations. And there's also a real question about whether this was legal. A court on the lowest level court that was related to ruling on this issue struck down Trump's taking of the National Guard, returned the Guard to Governor Gavin Newsom. Of course, an appeals court has reversed that stay, that reversed that reversal. So now Trump has control of the California National Guard once again, but they haven't issued, I don't believe, a final ruling on this question. So there's also questions about its legality. Let's continue.
And he's like, "Well, a lot of people in the military don't. They're speaking up. They're walking away." And I was like, "Well, guess what, man? I'm a veteran too. And the first thing they teach you in the military that you obey the chain of command. And guess who's at the top of that chain? It's the commander in chief, the president of the United States." So I told him this. If you are talking about immigrants, you're wrong. You're talking about illegal immigrants. I spent 3 years in.
So let me respond to two parts of this. I haven't been in the military. I'm not going to pretend like I've been in the military. Obviously, I've not been in the military. But there is an oath that people take in the military. I think it's something about the U.S. Constitution. I, insert your name, will say Micah, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Whoa. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. Great. And that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of offices appointed, yada, yada, yada. So we start with your loyalty to the Constitution and that you are going to go against enemies of the United States, foreign and domestic. Guys, honoring your oath to the Constitution is the most important thing. Obviously, if the President of the United States orders you to do something that's against the Constitution, that's illegal, you're not supposed to do it. This is the first priority here. And obviously, like intuitively speaking, imagine in South Korea, for instance, where they had a almost coup, the president of South Korea tried to send the military on parliament and declare martial law and dismiss parliament. Was it right for soldiers to like go there and if he says, go shoot all the people in parliament, Would it be right for them to do that? No, obviously it wouldn't be right for them to do that. Similarly, of course, people can say, hey, actually, legally speaking, Trump shouldn't build us in the National Guard after these people in order to them to do these things. So we're going to object to that. And that's a totally fair thing to do. Now, of course, if Trump gives legal orders, you have to follow it, right, if you're going to be in the military. But if he gives illegal orders and courts rule that way, then actually the wrong thing to do is to follow those orders. You should understand this.
Refugee camp in Turkey, waited my turn with no source of education, no source of income, because we knew what was on the other side. And when we got here, we didn't raise the Iranian flag. We raised the American flag and the Texas flag, and we still do today. So you're not talking about immigrants. You're talking about illegal immigrants, those people who invaded this country. And anybody in the military that have a problem with this, or like this guy, or those foreigners that are raising the foreign flag, you all are more than welcome to get the hell out and go find another place.
So many Iranians are very patriotic Americans. This guy lives in Texas, just like me, just like a lot of the members of the Iranian community. Many of them are conservative because of their life experience, because of what they've seen from the political parties. And there's been a deliberate outreach by the Trump campaign and the Republican Party to the Iranian community. So I understand why a lot of these people have gone that way. Of course, all the people that I talk to that are Iranians, I say, guys, this guy's not really for you. And one of the examples that I point to is the fact that he's literally not letting in more Iranians. That's literally not happening anymore. How can you support a president like Trump and say he's for legal immigration, he's just against illegal immigration? He's for people like me that follow the rules. Whenever he's changed the rules in such a way that a person like you could never come to this country, I don't understand that. I don't. I also don't understand telling people who disagree with you, who think what the president is doing is unconstitutional, that they should just leave the country. They're not going to leave the country. We can disagree about things in this country. What are you talking about? You have to leave the country. And he also mentioned people waving foreign flags and that undocumented immigrants are invaders. This rhetoric is totally crazy to me. So they say illegal aliens. This is how they refer to undocumented people. And the narrative is that there's like hordes of like these third world people who hate this country, who want to come in, just take huge amounts of welfare, destroy the country, vote for the Democratic Party somehow, and turn it into their third world hellhole that they came from. When the reality is, if you talk to any undocumented person, you find out that they're actually like really normal. If you talk to an undocumented person and, they're from Guatemala or they're from, Haiti, they're from a place that is really not great, right? Their life expectancy would have been terrible. Their economic opportunities were bad. Their education opportunities were terrible. And they came to the United States often. They came to the border. They asked for asylum and they were let in. They didn't sneak in. They didn't just like dodge border security, like dig a hole. They were let in because that's how the asylum process has worked. You could actually claim asylum at the U.S. border. Why is that the case? Who came up with this idea? Well, we came up with this idea because during the Holocaust, Jews were coming in boats to the United States and they were saying, hey, please let us in. We escaped Germany. We can't go, obviously, fill out a visa application in Germany. We can't do immigration papers in Germany. It is dangerous for us in Europe. We need to come into your country. And what did America say to many of those immigrants? No, go back. And that was obviously a terrible idea, right? The immigration process is arduous. So the asylum system has been an opportunity for people to come and declare asylum at the border, and a lot of them have been let in. And you can disagree with us letting in a lot of these people. You can say we shouldn't let so many in. They should turn way more people away. That's what Trump's doing now. He's turning pretty much everybody away. But can you blame the people that got in that way? And when they came into this country, did they not work? Did they get on welfare? No, statistically speaking, no, they didn't. They didn't get on welfare. They undocumented immigrants are not eligible for tons of U.S. welfare programs, and they consume welfare at lower rates than American citizens. Did they commit tons of crimes? No. All the research that we have suggests that the crime rate for undocumented immigrants is lower than not only legal immigrants, but also U.S.-born citizens, and it's lower dramatically. Why? Because if they get caught for something, they're going to get deported. So obviously they don't want to commit crimes. They're working jobs. That's why a lot of Trump's deportations are finding nannies on the street that are Hispanic and asking them for their papers and then deporting them. That's why they're deporting people working construction. They're deporting farm workers because they're working. These people are working jobs. And many times they've been here for a very, very long time. They've put down roots here. They have kids going through American public schools, speaking Valley Girl English, speaking English just like anybody else. They're much more familiar with the United States than the country that they came from. They're living dramatically better lives. They're contributing to our economy. And you want to convince me that spending $30,000, maybe more, finding this person, brutally detaining them, snatching them off the street, sending them to some place where they own no property without a lot of their stuff, without their property here, just taking it all, is making the world a better place? You're ruining their lives. People that have been deported have just died in the other country because they didn't have sufficient amounts of medication. Imagine you rely on a certain type of medication, you get deported to some other country without any financial resources, without access to maybe that high quality medical care, and then you just die. What kind of country could do that? Well, our country's doing that right now. You're going to tell me that these people were invaders? That you're repelling an invasion? They were trying to take over? They were trying to live their lives. These are peaceful people. I don't understand. I seriously don't understand how you can think of yourself as an ethical person and you can think that you're actually trying to make lives better for humanity and for people in this country, when one of the centerpieces of your ideology, of your policy platform for this country, is detaining peaceful people in the millions and decimating their lives, destroying their futures, because that's what mass deportations is. And not only are you doing that to tremendous cost to U.S. taxpayers, which already were running enormous deficits, but you're doing this at the cost of just Americans economically, because these are people that are working jobs and spending their money on U.S. goods. If you're a guy who's been selling stuff in a highly Latino, Hispanic community with lots of undocumented people, what happens whenever a lot of your customers are deported? Is that good for you? Is that good for all the people that you buy from, right? What happens if you're trying to buy a home and half the construction workers are gone? Do you think that makes the prices cheaper for you or more expensive, right? When there's huge labor shortages on farms so that we're not able to grow maybe sufficient foods for other products, fundamental inputs in the economy are taken away. And this is actually something Trump has spoken to recently. Our great farmers and people in the hotel and leisure business have been stating that our very aggressive policy on immigration is taking very good long-time workers away from them, with those jobs being almost impossible to replace. In many cases, the criminals allowed into our country by the very stupid Biden open borders policy are applying for those jobs. This is not good. We must protect our farmers, but get the criminals out of the USA. Changes are coming. So he's acknowledging right here that his immigration policy is hurting American businesses because they're telling them that. And it's remarkable how isolated he is from apparently criticisms of his policies, because this is not like a oh my God, we just realized that deporting farm workers in mass hurts farms and deporting hotel workers in mass hurts hotels. It's not a new thing. We've been talking about this for a long time. Economists, this is why economists have like uniformly, unanimously almost rejected the idea of mass deportations because they knew it would have this consequence. Unfortunately, the only people that Trump seems to listen to are business friends of his, and maybe his own businesses because he owns a lot of hotels. He's actually used undocumented labor in the past, which I think is interesting. He's lost lawsuits actually violating labor laws by hiring undocumented immigrants. So maybe this might have something to do with him. But the truth is, a lot of these undocumented people are peaceful. And so drawing this back to the original point, whenever you talk about them like they're illegal invaders or trying to destroy this country, first, a lot of them are not illegally here. They're not. The asylum system is legal. If you're not documented, that doesn't mean you've done something wrong or done something illegal. A lot of these people that have been deported have been picked up at their court dates. They follow the law. Whenever you get an asylum claim, you have to go to court eventually, but you come into the country first. You go to court later at your court-sanctioned date, and they make a determination on whether you stay here or not. He's taking people at these courts and deporting them, even if the court didn't rule that they should be deported. Maybe they ruled that you should be able to stay. They're still getting deported. You're going to say those people are illegal invaders? There's nothing illegal about what they've done. And they're not invaders. They're peaceful people. This is what far-right movements around the world do. They use language to dehumanize people. They try to paint them as anything other than peaceful human beings just trying to live their lives. And the truth is that that's what most people are trying to do. They're not trying to take advantage of anyone else. They're just trying to live their lives. And our country would be in a much better position if we focused a lot less on bullying these folks, of pinning our problems on poor Latinos and Hispanics and undocumented people down the street, and focused a lot more energy on going after the organized interest groups which exist in our society, which knowingly fight for policies. They knowingly push our politicians to do things that are in their interest and not in the interest of the public. We can find an endless number of examples. Those are the enemies of the American people. The lobbyist class, the special interest groups, the rent seekers who profit from making us all poor. They champion regulatory policies, tax policies, spending policies to enrich themselves at our collective expense. They're the enemies. And they're the people that this administration's not interested seemingly at all at taking on. Actually, they're more than happy to give them even more benefits, championing even more special subsidies for large agribusinesses, as if those people are in need. Not going after the real waste, fraud, and abuse in government, instead going after research and development, for medical research and development, which I know a lot about because my stepmother is a heart disease researcher, and the institution she works at has just had to be acquired by another institution because they're basically bankrupt. Tons of people are going to get fired. Research projects on heart disease that have been ongoing for years are going to get stopped midway in their tracks because this administration's far more interested in reckless cuts, just destroying institutions within government, than actually taking on the real rent seekers. Is corporate welfare being gone after by this administration? Is the over $1.5 trillion of special tax breaks, exemptions, credits, deductions, and loopholes which exist in our tax code? Our tax code looks like Swiss cheese. Are any of them being gone after by this administration? Of course not. Actually, their big, beautiful bill, which is what they call it, I think it's a big, terrible bill, creates even more loopholes, lowers the rates on the same people which are already benefiting from a rigged tax code. This is the problem that we should be speaking to. And what you see around the world is whenever these right-wing nationalist, isolationist, nativist movements come to power and they oppress those immigrant minorities, none of the problems they claim they're going to solve by doing that are actually solved. Crime rates don't dramatically drop. The economy doesn't become more prosperous by deporting tons of working people. Unsurprisingly, the experts on all these areas, like the economy, like public safety, who committed their lives to research and have predicted and shown over and over and over again that these policies don't actually help and do the things that right-wingers claim they do. These researchers are actually right. And Trump, the populists, the people, the terminally online right-wing grifters who inherently or who insist constantly that immigration is the fundamental cause of every single problem in society. They sound like dogmatic Marxists who blame the bourgeoisie for every bad thing that's ever happened. Surprisingly, they're wrong, actually. Surprising.